everyone, meet Polly, my Polestar 2. She's the latest addition to Drive's long-term test fleet, and for those of you unfamiliar with our long-term test format, it's where we take on a car for a longer period of time and attempt to emulate the ownership experience, from the dealership pickup all the way through to the everyday gripes, challenges and quirks you might encounter if you were to buy this car. But before I take you on an in-depth tour of everything Polly has to offer, make sure you like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date with all the new car content. I picked up Polly from the Polestar Test Drive Centre in Port Melbourne a couple of weeks ago, and you can read all about my pickup experience on Drive.com.au. But today I'm keen to understand what you'd like to know about this car. What would you like to see me do with this car? Please send us through any questions and challenges in the comments and I will do my best to answer them. Just don't ask me to drive it off anything tall. The Polestar 2 is the first high-volume production car from Polestar, which was formerly Volvo's performance sub-brand, but it's since been spun off into its own all-electric brand. Now, there are 3 specification grades available in the Polestar 2. The first one is the standard range single motor, then there's the long range single motor, and finally there's the long range dual motor. My Polly sits in the middle of that lineup as the long range single motor variant. The long-range single-motor variant starts at $68,400 before on-road costs and gets you a larger 78 kilowatt-hour battery with estimated range of up to 540 kilometers, which is around 70 kilometers more than the entry-level model. A single electric motor sends drive to the front wheels only via a single-speed automatic transmission with peak outputs rated at 170 kilowatts and 330 newton meters. If you jump up to the dual motor option, you get all-wheel drive capabilities and super fast acceleration of 0 to 100 kilometers in just 4.7 seconds. Polly is finished in the only no-cost paint shade available, it's called Magnesium, but she's actually fitted with 2 major option packs, which brings the price closer to $84,000 drive away. Now, all Polestar cars get a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty as standard, and the battery comes with an 8-year 160,000 kilometre warranty as standard as well. You also get thrown in 5 years of free roadside assistance and 5 years of free servicing. In terms of option packs fitted to my vehicle, the Pilot Light pack adds more safety features like blind spot monitoring, a rear cross traffic alert, adaptive cruise control and a 360-degree camera. Meanwhile, the Plus pack adds creature comforts like heated rear seats and a heated steering wheel, a tinted rear window, a premium sound system, a wireless phone charger and a panoramic glass roof. The Polestar receives a 7-metre Type 2 AC charging cord as standard, which plugs into a regular wall socket. It also receives a 6-metre AC charging cable that can plug into slightly more powerful 11 kilowatt units. Via the car's touchscreen, you can preset the maximum charging current and the ideal battery charge percentage. The car can also use a fast charger with up to 150 kilowatts of capacity. Polestar says this would take the car from 10 to 80% battery capacity in just 37 minutes. So the first thing to know about the Polestar 2 is that when you get into the driver's seat and you've got the key in your pocket, this car is on. You're good to go. There's no start button. It just is pop it into drive and you head off on your way. It'll even disengage the parking brake for you. Otherwise, this cabin really looks fantastic. It has plenty of visual impact. I will say that it's quite a snug space to be. This center console, whilst it doesn't really encroach on legroom, it is quite wide, so you feel kind of hunkered in like this, and it's quite a low roofline as well, and all of the materials used are quite dark too. So whilst there is this panoramic glass roof, it's quite heavily tinted and doesn't actually let a lot of light through into the cabin. So I do feel like it's sort of lower to the ground and darker and a little bit more snug and kind of, I suppose, a little bit sporty as well. These seats are finished in a fabric called Weave Tech, so that's a vegan fabric, and I've got to say the closest thing I can compare it to is neoprene used in wetsuits, so it's not particularly luxurious to my mind, but I imagine it's fairly durable. Otherwise, the finishes in this cabin, they look good, but this kind of finish covering the center console is really hard to keep clean, so I can already see some white marks on it, and things like makeup I can imagine would really show up on here, and unfortunately I tend to use a fair bit of makeup, so that's something that's a bit of a red flag in my mind. Also, this glossy black plastic around the gear shifter, again, looks really great, but I can already see some fingerprints popping up. And you've got this really big central screen here too, which is fingerprint central. Other than that though, in terms of storage in this cabin, there are some slim door bins, and I can fit my water bottle in here, so I'll show you my water bottle. That's how big it is, and that can slide in perfectly with not much room to move. There's one cup holder here, which you can put your takeaway coffee in, and there's a second one under here in this central glove box as well. So it's not a heap of storage, I will say. Wireless charger here, and 2 storage slots on either side of the center console. Now you've got some buttons up here as well. The SOS button alerts emergency services if you find yourself in a pickle, and the connect button will connect you through to a call center where you can access your free roadside assistance. Now let's talk infotainment. So this 11.15-inch touchscreen is much like the ones you've probably seen in Volvo cars, and then it looks like a giant iPad glued to the dashboard there, and it's paired to a 12.3-inch digital driver display. Both of them look fantastic. They're really easy to use, the design is really streamlined, and the graphics are very crisp and premium looking. Now, Polestar's infotainment system is much like Android Auto built into the car. So they partner with Google to develop it, and if you used Android Auto before or even have a Google account, it will be familiar to you. You can also access Apple CarPlay, but that's via a cable connection. So, using this system, you're able to use Google Maps like you might on your Android phone or on your Apple phone if you have it fitted. And the cool thing about this is it allows you to search charging stations and calculate your route based on the most efficient driving available. So if you search along the route here, it'll show you charging stations. It'll also give you an estimate of how much battery capacity you'll have left once you arrive at your destination. So that's really handy. Because I'm logged into my Google profile on this car, it also has all my saved locations, so I can tell the assistant to navigate to work and it will take me straight there. On that note, obviously you'll have access to the Hey Google voice assistant, which is really handy. Oh, she's heard me. Never mind, don't worry Google. And you can also download Google Play apps. I've already taken the liberty of downloading Spotify, which was super easy. I just had to scan a QR code on my phone and it automatically logged me in. So that's a really cool feature as well. So while I have an iPhone, I have a Google account, I also have a Google Home and a Google Doorbell, and apparently if I get it set up correctly, I can tell Google to actually turn the lights on in my house on the way home from my car, which is really cool. Stay tuned to see if I can actually figure out how to do that. Now, on top of that, you've also got some really helpful information as to your driving style and your energy usage. So, for example, the range assistant will tell you what your projected range is. It'll show you how much consumption you're using at the moment, and it'll also tell you whether you're driving in a low consumption style. Now, accessing climate control is a little bit fiddly. You'll see you can't really access it via this screen. You have to go into one of the individual apps, and then it pops up on the bottom here. So you pop this on, and then it pops up another window there, and it's a few steps to get it to do what you want it to do. So right now it's off, but if I sort of wanted to turn it up, you can bump it up like that. You can make sure it's set to eco, so it uses a little less energy. But I found, for me personally, this was really pesky to use while on the move and a little bit too confusing and convoluted, and I would have loved some physical buttons. Now, moving on to this car button here. This is where you control the one-pedal driving experience and whether or not the car creeps forward, which I'll speak about later in more detail in another video. But on top of that, it's where you access your charging screen. So it shows you how much battery capacity you have, but importantly, it also allows you to preset the battery capacity you'd like it to charge to when you're charging. So you can limit it to, say, 70% if that's what you want. And you can also set the rate to which it charges. So if you are using a kind of wall socket at an old holiday house, you might want to be a little bit careful and set it to a lower amp rate so you don't sort of blow a fuse and make everyone have a blackout, which is important. And finally, you've got your range assistant as well, which will just show you how economically you're driving, and will also give you your projected range and your instant consumption figures, which is a good thing to stay on top of, especially if you have a little bit of range anxiety like me. There's also an inbuilt SIM card with internet connectivity, so you don't even need your phone and you can get lifelong over-the-air software updates. Now, if you download the Polestar app, in a few simple steps you can pair the app with your car, so you'll see that I'm now paired with Polly, and that way you can remotely access the battery level of the car, you can see where it's parked, you can see whether the doors are open, locked, unlocked, and you can also activate the climate control so you can pre-cool or preheat the car at will. I really love the driver display in the Polestar 2. So while you don't get a head-up display, I think this has all the info you need, and I think it's really well laid out. So on the left, you've got live speed limit updates, courtesy of the traffic sign recognition system in this car. You've also got a large digital speedometer, and then you've also got updates on the amount of range you have left and the amount of battery capacity you have left. And if I shift views here like this, becomes a really crisp overhead view of your Google Maps route as well. So I think this is fantastic. It has all the info you need and it was really easy to glance down at whilst I was driving. Now in the back seat of the Polestar 2, there's nice creature comforts, especially when you opt for the Plus pack, which is fitted to this car. So these rear seats here are heated, so you have your access to your own controls down there, which is really handy. Got a couple of air vents as well, and look, it's a fairly comfortable back seat actually for something that's not an SUV. I've got a little bit of toe room down here. As you can see, I've got the driver's seat in my regular position, and I've got nice knee clearance as well, and this is a nice deep bench here. However, when I sit really right back in the seat, you can see that my head is very nearly touching the roof. So if you are a taller person, your head will likely be touching this roof, which might make you feel a little bit claustrophobic. But obviously this nice glass panoramic roof lets in lots of light. On top of that, you've also got a drop down armrest here with 2 cup holders and access via a ski slot into the boot, which is handy as well. Now if I put that back up, you'll see that I actually find that these seats on second glance are actually a little bit scratchy even. So if I had bare legs right now, I'd probably find them a little bit uncomfortable. You've got mat pockets on the back of the seat here as well. And then there's ISOFIX points on each of the outboard seats. That's great. I was able to fit my child's seat without too much trouble. Obviously it's a lot easier in an SUV, but this was fine to fit it in. The Polestar 2 was awarded 5 stars from ANCAP when it was tested in 2021. As standard, safety equipment includes front and rear parking sensors, autonomous emergency braking with cyclist and pedestrian detection, 8 airbags, traffic sign recognition with a speed limiter, driver attention monitoring, and active lane keeping. But if you want adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitoring, a rear cross traffic alert, and a 360-degree camera, you'll have to pay extra for the $3,400 Pilot Lite pack. Keen-eyed viewers might notice that the central air vents in the front seat are mounted above the touchscreen, meaning if you're on the shorter side and like the feel of air directly hitting your face, you might be disappointed. Now, one of my very petty complaints about the Polestar 2 is that while the car looks really fantastic and has a strong design language, the key's kind of boring. So it's, I suppose, Scandi minimalist in keeping with the theme of the car, but it is essentially just a black plastic rectangle. So I don't know, I could have used a bit more pizzazz. Regardless, it does have a button on it to activate the power tailgate on this car, which you can also open using a kick sensor, or if you're like me, you can spend ages trying to find the button, which is located, hot tip, under here, hidden away, because, you know, minimalism. The Polestar 2 offers 405 litres of boot space, and that includes 41 litres of underfloor storage, which I'll show you in a second. But what this boot does is it does a really nice job of dividing up the space that's available, so it's really usable and suitable for all different kinds of purposes. So for starters, if you want to keep your supermarket shopping separate from your Bunnings haul, you've got this really clever divider here, which also just means that you can keep things from rolling around in the boot while you drive. On top of that, you've also got the underfloor storage here, and if you don't want to have to hold this up while you load and unload things into the boot, there's also this clever stand which props it up for ease of access. So down here you've got this sort of funny L-shaped compartment, but that's where you get your extra 41 litres of underfloor storage, and I found that it was the perfect place to store my charging cables and my saxophone. If you want even more space, the rear seats fold in a 60-40 split to up that cargo capacity to over 1,000 litres. And of course, if you want even more room, there's always the front. Follow me. Now, accessing this front storage area in the Polestar 2 is much like opening the bonnet on a regular car. So you pull a lever in the cabin, and then there's a latch under here that allows you to open it up. And now under here, you've got probably just enough room for my handbag. So it's not a huge area, but any valuables you really want hidden out of sight and in somewhere unexpected, this is the perfect spot for them. Now, Tesla would call this area a frunk, as in a front trunk, but I think trunk is kind of an American term, and I far preferred what the lady at the Polestar Collection Centre called it, which is a fruit, as in a front boot. I think that's very sweet. Now, you may have noticed that I didn't mention any spare wheel, and that's because there isn't one on the Polestar 2. Unfortunately, you just get a tyre repair kit, and you'll find it neatly stowed away up here. I hope you've enjoyed getting to know Polly. I know she's certainly enjoyed getting to know you. She and I are going to be spending a fair bit of time together over the next few weeks, and I'm keen to see particularly how it goes charging her, given I don't have any off-street parking, but we'll figure that one out together. In the meantime, make sure you submit your questions and challenges in the YouTube comment section, and please keep in mind I'm not a stunt driver, nor am I a 21-year-old YouTube star with an underdeveloped prefrontal cortex. Thanks for watching!